Hey, it's your Wisconsin wine guy, and I hope that you had a very pleasant, smooth, and easy transition into this new year. We're now in 2022. Wow. And I want to thank you all for following me again in 2021 on this journey of myself presenting you different wines you can find on the shelves of your liquor store, grocery store, and some wine shops. And for those who are new, that's what this is about. Reviewing wines with the infamous simple rating system, the thumb rating system. But here's why I'm here. I received a question in December, and I thought this would be a good question to answer for the beginning of 2022's wine reviews. So now, of course, this isn't a wine review because I'm doing my dry January and doing a cleanse here. I'm repurifying my system, all right? So I'm doing that in January, get my exercises back going, all that good stuff, right? Not to say that I didn't exercise in 2021, but it was slacking there in December. But now just get everything back on track so I can be fresh for you in these reviews I'm going to present to you in 2022. So let's get to the question. So the question was, what is your process that you go through, that you use when reviewing these wines, to determine, not to say that the wine is good or bad, but to determine, your system of how you rate the wine. I thought, wow, that's an awesome question. If you've been drinking wine as long as I have, it becomes kind of automatic, just like, I tell people all the time, when you go through that whole process of how to taste wine and get to the swirling part, I always say, beware that as you do this over and over again with your wine, you're going to start doing milk. You're going to start doing orange juice. You're going to start doing water. But be careful doing something hot. I've done that, and that was not fun. But it becomes a habit after a while. You don't have to think about it. It's just there. But I had to give it some thought. I said, you know what? Let me share with you what I go through. All right, so what is my process? These are the things that I think it came down to like 5 key things that I focus on when I'm reviewing a wine, or tasting wine and reviewing it. And I do it right there with you. I go through this process all in my head. So this is not in any particular order, but this is what I go through. So number 1, we'll say the wine's components. The wine's components. You may have heard me talk about that, about some wines. We're talking about the acid, the alcohol, the tannins, the sugar. Are they out of whack? It's one spiking of the other. You taste the wine, it's like, wow, that's a lot of alcohol. That's alcohol burn. You taste the wine, oh my God, that's very acidic. Or you taste the wine and say, ooh, wow, that's over sweet. It's not even a dessert wine. And it's like the sweetness doesn't match the acidity, right? So I'm talking about balance. That's another term you hear me use when I talk about components. Balance. It could be little spikes. Because a wine is going to hit, the liquid's going to hit your palate different. It's going to hit in different areas at different times. But when you have it in your mouth, but the little spikes are okay. But is it overall balanced in the wine? So I taste for that. That's why you see me do that rinse. I want to taste the acidity, and I do that. That second part is the taste. I'm putting all that into play when I do that in those two-step tasting process. Next thing, fruit. You know what? It's a fruit. It's a fruit that goes through a natural process and turns into alcohol, right? So I say, if you can't taste the fruit, then what's the point? Right? I've had dandelion wine, I've had tomato wine, and when I tasted the dandelion wine, it tasted like dandelion greens. When I tasted the tomato wine, it tasted like tomato. I had some good ones and some bad ones. But the most important thing was I tasted what it was. So in this case, it's a grape, it's a fruit. So I want to know that I'm tasting fruit. Sometimes you have some of those wines out there that's aged, is the thing now, aging it in, whiskey barrels, bourbon barrels, rum barrels. But then some may take it too far. And you taste more of the alcohol, or the barrel type of barrel was in that had alcohol in it, versus the fruit itself. Well, then you kind of not, when you're drinking wine, but you're kind of re-drinking wine, right? There's not, the fruit's gone. You taste the bourbon, the whiskey, the rum, right? Not the fruit itself. So that's important to me, the fruit, Next would be varietal. I mean, is the wine true to varietal character? You may have heard myself and others that rattle off these different, flavor profiles or flavor things that they detected. Say like a licorice or blackberries or plum. If we're talking about Cabernet or grapefruit and subtle melons or white peach. If we're talking about Sauv Blanc, tropical fruits, pineapple, butter, rich cream. If we're talking about Chardonnay, so you hear about those things, and I'm saying is I try to taste for if the wine is true to varietal character. You tell me it's a Chardonnay, I want to make sure that those base components are there. If you tell me it's a Cabernet, if you tell me it's a Merlot, if you tell me it's a Zinfandel, tell me it's a Tempranillo, I want to make sure those fundamental flavor characteristics are there when I'm tasting the wine. I don't want it to taste like, if I'm tasting a Tempranillo and it tastes like a Vino Verde. Why is that? You didn't say you had Vino Verde in the wine, right? Okay, but sometimes you have those blends, and that's always a lot of fun to try and taste the different flavor profiles, because oftentimes they cross over, especially in the red grapes. They would cross over, as far as the flavor characteristics. So you try to pick those out, as best you can. So it's always a lot of fun when you're drinking blends. So varietal character, true to varietal character, I tasted that as well. Again, this is all automatic when I'm tasting the wine. Next is going to be, are the flavors pleasant and harmonious? What I mean by that is, when you're tasting a wine, you have all these components, have all these flavor profiles, and you have the wine may have been an oak barrel, not an oak barrel, a type of oak barrel. You want to make sure that it's pleasant. Okay, you don't want to taste the wine that it tastes like, you may have heard me say this a few times on some wines, it tasted like I'm chewing on a toothpick. It's like a wet toothpick, like it may have been new oak, or it may have been chips or whatever, but it's not that pleasant because it's so woody tasting, or it's over oaked, so smoky that it kind of takes away from the overall composition of the wine. So that's what I mean by being pleasant. Or it can go extreme and say there's an off taste to it, there's a fault to it. So I'm tasting for those, about the flavor. So is the flavor pleasant and harmonious? And last, in my 5, and definitely not least, is going to be, I'm tasting for drinkability. I mean, let's be honest. The average wine drinker, they're not tasting wine for a story. They're not tasting wine for history. Heck, most of them are not even tasting the wine to decide what they're going to pair with food. The average wine drinker, and that includes me at times, I'm looking for a wine that at the end of the day, or in the afternoon, on a sunny day, or a cold day like it is now, I want to pour myself a glass of wine, and I want to experience harmony on my palate. That's it. I'm not having it with food. I'm not trying to discover the tradition of a particular winery. I simply want to pour myself a glass of wine and enjoy it. So I taste the wines for you, and that's a huge part of that grading system, because these are everyday wines. I tasted wines for you, most importantly, for is drinkability. All right, so there you have it. 5 things. I'll run them off to you. Components, fruit, varietal character, flavor, pleasant or harmonious, and taste and drinkability. It's your Wisconsin Wine Guy, and I'm going to continue drinking my green drink, saying to you as always, let your palate be the guide on selecting your wine. And I'll see you after January with some new wines, all right? Ciao!